In the lively city of Akure, there once lived a woman named Ifunanya Okoye. For over 10 years, she had prayed, wept, fasted, and searched every possible place for help because she longed for a child. She had visited specialists in big hospitals, consulted respected pastors, and even traveled to remote villages to seek traditional remedies. Yet month after month, her arms remained empty. Then, when hope had almost faded, a miracle happened. She gave birth to a beautiful baby girl whom she named Zarya. To Ifunanya, Zarya was more than a daughter. She was a divine gift, a promise fulfilled after years of silent tears. From that day forward, Ifunanya vowed that nothing in this world would ever limit her child's future. Ifunanya was not an ordinary woman. She owned a thriving textile store at Arebayo Market, one of the busiest marketplaces in Akure. Her shop overflowed with shimmering silks, intricate lace, imported brocades, and dazzling Ankara prints. Customers streamed in daily, drawn by her charm and her rare collection of luxury fabrics. She worked tirelessly, from sunrise to late evening, ensuring her business flourished. But her true motivation was Zarya. Every coin she earned, every yard of cloth she sold, was for her daughter's comfort and advancement. When Zaria turned 5, Ifunanya enrolled her at Crestview Academy, the most prestigious private school in the state. Only the wealthiest families could afford its polished classrooms, sprawling lawns, and immaculate uniforms. Ifunanya made sure her daughter stood out. Zarya wore the finest shoes, carried designer backpacks, and always looked perfectly groomed. To Ifunanya, excellence was not optional, it was expected. And so began a story of a mother's fierce devotion and a daughter destined to shine. Crestview Academy was a world of privilege. Marble floors reflected sunlight streaming through tall windows, and manicured gardens framed every walkway. The children of politicians, executives, and business moguls filled its classrooms. Among them, Zaria Okoye quickly became a star. She was graceful, respectful, and exceptionally intelligent. Teachers praised her diligence, and classmates admired her kindness. During every term's award ceremony, her name echoed repeatedly through the hall as she collected prize after prize. Parents often whispered to their children, "Why can't you be more like Zarya?" Some even approached Ifunanya during school events. "Do you hire private tutors?" they would ask curiously. Ifunanya would smile modestly. "No, she studies on her own. She is simply blessed." But her generosity extended beyond words. She frequently visited the school bearing expensive perfumes, elegant handbags, and gourmet treats for teachers. "It's just a token of appreciation," she would say warmly. The staff admired her kindness, unaware that her gifts always seemed to benefit Zarya in unseen ways. Within the classroom, students often gathered around Zarya. "What's your secret?" they would ask eagerly. She would respond sweetly, "I just pay attention and revise my notes." Everything seemed perfect. Zarya's brilliance appeared effortless, and her mother's pride grew daily. Yet in every story of light, a shadow waits patiently. And soon a new student would arrive, one whose presence would quietly disturb the balance at Crestview Academy. At the start of a new term, a girl named Naomi Adeyemi joined Crestview Academy. She had transferred from Lagos, where her mother, Mrs. Adeyemi, was a respected corporate executive. Naomi was strikingly beautiful, but it was her intellect that left everyone speechless. On her very first day, she solved a complex mathematics problem before the teacher could finish writing it. Her classmates gasped in disbelief. "How did you do that?" one boy asked. Naomi smiled shyly. "I just practice a lot, that's all." Soon they nicknamed her the human calculator. Naomi was humble and kind. She explained difficult concepts patiently and never demanded anything in return. Within days, she became popular. Whispers began circulating. "Do you think Naomi will beat Zarya this year? Maybe she'll take the top spot." The rumors reached Zarya's ears like tiny daggers. For the first time, she felt threatened. She had always been the undisputed champion. Now someone else was shining just as brightly. Determined to maintain control, Zarya approached Naomi with a beautifully wrapped present. "This is just a welcome gift," she said sweetly. Naomi hesitated. "Thank you, but my mother says I shouldn't accept gifts from people I don't know well." Zarya forced a smile, but inside frustration ignited. No one had ever refused her before. And when Naomi later led her team to victory in the interclass competition, defeating Zarya's team by a wide margin, envy rooted deeply in Zarya's heart. That night, she returned home with tears and a dangerous confession for her mother. When Zarya told her mother everything, Ifunanya listened carefully. "She refused your gift?" she asked quietly. "Yes, Mama, and now everyone says she's the best." Ifunanya's expression hardened. "My daughter, do not worry. Continue smiling at her. Leave the rest to me." Zarya understood what those words meant. The gifts Ifunanya distributed were not ordinary. Hidden within them were spiritual transactions, silent exchanges of favor and destiny. Those who accepted unknowingly surrendered fragments of their brilliance. That night, as midnight cloaked the city, Ifunanya whispered incantations. In a swirl of unseen mist, she appeared in Naomi's bedroom. Standing over the sleeping child, she murmured dark words and vanished. The following day, Naomi began to change. The morning after that strange night, something felt different to Naomi Adeyemi. As soon as her math teacher walked into class and began explaining a new topic, Naomi's eyelids grew unbearably heavy. She tried to fight it. She blinked repeatedly, sat upright, even pinched herself under the desk, but sleep dragged her down like a heavy blanket. Within minutes, she was slumped over her desk. Soft laughter rippled through the classroom. Is that really Naomi? The human calculator asleep during math? When the teacher called her to solve a problem on the board, Naomi stood shakily. She picked up the marker, but the moment her fingers touched it, a sharp, tingling sensation shot through her hand. It felt like electricity, sudden, painful, unnatural. She dropped the marker. "What is wrong with you?" the teacher asked sternly. I don't know, Ma. My hand, it feels strange." The class exchanged confused looks. When she returned to her seat, her hand continued buzzing painfully. During the weekly test, the same thing happened. She could barely hold her pen. Her once confident handwriting trembled into uneven lines. For the first time in her life, Naomi failed an exam. At home, she cried quietly in her room. Her body felt weak, her thoughts felt foggy, and when night came, her troubles deepened. She found herself in a dark, unfamiliar place in her dreams. Children sat around her in silence, while a shadowy figure handed them bowls of food. Though she wanted to refuse, her hands moved on their own. She ate, and each morning she woke up exhausted, as though she had spent the night running from something she could not see.
Mrs. Adeyemi noticed the change, but she didn't fully understand it. Naomi tried to explain. "Mama, something isn't right. My hands feel weak. I can't think clearly." Her mother, buried in corporate meetings and endless phone calls, sighed gently. "You're probably stressed, my dear. Just rest more." But rest did not help. The nightmares continued. The tingling worsened. Her grades dropped rapidly. Students began whispering openly in the hallways. She's not smart anymore. Maybe she was just lucky before. Each word pierced Naomi's heart. Soon, the class teacher called Mrs. Adeyemi for a meeting. "Your daughter isn't herself," the teacher said carefully. "She sleeps in class. She struggles with simple tasks. It's very unusual." Mrs. Adeyemi frowned in confusion. At home, she disciplined Naomi, believing it was behavioral. No television, no outings. Focus on your studies. But discipline could not fix what was happening. One evening, Naomi accidentally dropped and shattered a decorative vase. She stared at the broken pieces helplessly. "Mama, I don't want to go to school anymore," she whispered. Her mother froze. Naomi had always loved school. Something was terribly wrong. For the first time, worry replaced irritation in Mrs. Adeyemi's eyes. The next morning, she canceled work and called her closest friend, Mrs. Daniels, a woman deeply devoted to prayer. And that decision would change everything. When Mrs. Daniels stepped into the Adeyemi home, she immediately sensed something unusual. Naomi slowly descended the staircase. Mrs. Daniels gasped. "My God, Naomi, who has drained you?" Mrs. Adeyemi frowned in confusion, but Mrs. Daniels' expression had turned grave. "It's like her light has been covered. Someone has tampered with her destiny." Naomi burst into tears. Without hesitation, Mrs. Daniels placed her hand on Naomi's head and began to pray boldly. "In the name of Jesus, every power manipulating this child, release her now." Naomi began coughing violently. Suddenly, she fell to her knees and vomited a white, lumpy substance. Mrs. Adeyemi screamed in shock. Mrs. Daniels continued praying fervently. "No weapon formed against her shall prosper." After several intense minutes, Naomi collapsed weakly, but her breathing became steady. The house felt lighter. Mrs. Daniels turned to her friend gently but firmly. "You have been too distracted. The world is not harmless. Protect your child spiritually." Tears streamed down Mrs. Adeyemi's face. She had been present physically, but absent spiritually. From that day forward, she changed. She prayed with Naomi morning and night. They studied scripture together. They declared protection daily. Gradually, Naomi's strength returned. The nightmares stopped. Her hands steadied. Her mind cleared. And when she returned to Crestview Academy weeks later, something about her felt stronger than before, like a flame that had survived the wind. Naomi's return shocked everyone. In her first test back, she scored the highest mark in the class. Then she topped the next quiz, and the next. During the annual award ceremony, her name echoed through the auditorium repeatedly. "Most outstanding student, Naomi Adeyemi." The hall erupted in applause. Zarya sat frozen in her seat. Fury simmered beneath her calm expression. All their efforts wasted. That evening, she rushed home. "Mama, she's back. She won everything." Ifunanya's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Do not worry. I will finish this." That night, she once again summoned dark forces. She appeared in Naomi's room like a shadow stretching across the walls. But this time was different. As she raised her hand, a sudden chill swept through the air. Back at home, Mrs. Adeyemi awoke abruptly with urgency burning in her chest. She began praying immediately. "Lord, let your fire consume any power attacking my child." Suddenly, brilliant light flooded Naomi's bedroom. A fiery force struck Ifunanya. She screamed as flames engulfed her. Within seconds, she vanished. Ifunanya reappeared in her own home, writhing in agony. Her hands burned as if invisible fire clung to her skin. Zarya woke in terror. "Mama, what's happening?" "The fire. It won't stop," Ifunanya cried. The next morning, desperation drove Zarya to school. She approached Naomi with trembling hands. "I have something to confess," she whispered. "We were behind everything. My mother tried to harm you. Please, tell your mother to stop the fire." Naomi stared in disbelief. "I was jealous," Zarya continued tearfully. "I didn't want you to take my place." Naomi stood silent, processing the weight of the truth. By the end of that week, Ifunanya and Zarya disappeared. Some said they relocated, others whispered darker stories. But one lesson lingered through Crestview Academy. Envy can ignite destruction, and no power can triumph over innocence protected by faith. The news of Ifunanya and Zarya's sudden disappearance spread through Akure like wildfire. At Crestview Academy, students whispered in corners, teachers exchanged uneasy glances, and parents speculated in hushed tones during pickup hours. Some said Ifunanya traveled abroad for urgent medical treatment. Others insisted the burns on her hands had worsened mysteriously, refusing to heal despite expensive specialists. A few claimed that the once powerful businesswoman had closed her textile empire overnight and vanished without notice. At Adebayo Market, her shop was locked and abandoned. The vibrant rolls of silk and lace that once dazzled customers were gone. Dust gathered where luxury fabrics had once shimmered under bright lights. For Naomi, the confession lingered in her mind. She struggled with mixed emotions: shock, anger, pity. Zarya's trembling apology replayed repeatedly in her thoughts. Mrs. Adeyemi noticed her daughter's quiet reflection. "Forgiveness frees you," she reminded gently. Naomi nodded slowly. She understood that holding resentment would only weigh her down. At school, she treated others kindly, refusing to boast about her success. Her teachers admired not just her intelligence, but her humility. Crestview Academy eventually returned to its polished routine, but the story became a cautionary tale shared quietly among staff and families. It reminded everyone that ambition without integrity can destroy everything. And though Zarya's name faded from attendance lists, the lesson she left behind remained etched in memory. Months passed and Naomi flourished beyond expectations. Her confidence returned stronger than before, not rooted in competition, but in purpose. She no longer studied to prove herself superior. She studied because she loved learning. Her mother became her closest companion. Each morning before school, they prayed together. Each evening, they reflected on gratitude rather than pressure. Mrs. Adeyemi adjusted her priorities. Board meetings still existed, but they no longer overshadowed motherhood. She attended school events, listened carefully to Naomi's stories, and stayed spiritually alert. Naomi's classmates began seeking her help again. "How do you always stay calm?" one girl asked. Naomi smiled softly. "Because I know my light doesn't depend on anyone else's darkness." The annual inter-school competition arrived, bringing together top students from across the region. Naomi represented Crestview Academy. She solves complex equations with steady hands. She delivered articulate presentations without fear. And when the final scores were announced, she stood victorious, not just as the best student in her class, but among the finest in the state. The applause was thunderous. But what moved her most was seeing her mother in the audience, smiling proudly, not because of trophies, but because her daughter was whole again. That night, as Naomi lay in bed peacefully, there were no shadows, no strange dreams, no invisible forces, only quiet rest. Years later, the story of Naomi and Zarya was still remembered in Akure. Crestview Academy had welcomed many new students, but teachers occasionally referenced the past when speaking about character and choices. Naomi grew into a remarkable young woman. Her brilliance opened doors to prestigious universities, and her integrity earned her respect wherever she went. She never forgot the season when her light was nearly stolen. Instead of fear, it gave her wisdom. She learned that jealousy is a slow poison, capable of turning love into destruction. She learned that gifts given with hidden motives carry dangerous costs, and she learned that protection, spiritual and emotional, is essential in a world filled with unseen battles. As for Ifunanya and Zarya, their fate remained uncertain. Some believed they relocated to start over. Others believed consequences followed them wherever they went. But one truth stood firm. Power has limits. Envy consumes its owner. And innocence, when guarded by faith and vigilance, shines brighter than any darkness. The flame that once tried to destroy instead became a beacon of warning, and the city of Akure never forgot it. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that inspire, teach, and entertain. Until next time, bye!